Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Blake the Book Eater here, and today we are going to be talking about, the Wheel of Time television show on Amazon Prime. Welcome to all of the new viewers, and hello to returning subscribers. Please subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. Today we are going to be doing one of my adaptation reviews where I go over a book that I've read and compare and contrast it to the adaptation and trying to determine, is it a good adaptation? And as I think we all know, we have a lot of feelings about the Wheel of Time show, especially if you're a book reader. But we are going to be fair and balanced, and we are going to talk about the show on its own, and then we're also going to talk about the show in comparison to the source material. The source material being the first novel of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, and that is The Eye of the World. Season 1 was based on this and ends pretty much about where this book ends. So even though it does take and pull stuff from other books, we're mainly going to be focusing on The Eye of the World. I think what's important to preface is the way that I watched the Wheel of Time show, and I know we were all super hyped for this show. It was very, very exciting. We haven't had a, huge epic series like this adapted for a while, so it was like, what's gonna happen? What are they gonna do with it? And so I am currently 7 books deep into the Wheel of Time, so I have a lot of knowledge about the characters and their character arcs. Haven't finished the series yet, but I will. And I watched the first 2 episodes with my friend, who was actually halfway through reading The Eye of the World at the time, and so she kind of was very familiar with the setup around the book. And then I went home for the holidays, and I knew that I wanted to finish The Wheel of Time, so I actually sat down and rewatched the first 2 with my mom, and then we just binged the rest of it. My mom is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and she loves like big fantasy stuff, so this was very much up her alley. I'm very glad that I watched it with my mom because I was able to see what really worked for her as a viewer who had never heard of these characters, never read the books, anything like that, and it did kind of temper my experiences as a book reader, because when I watched the first 2 episodes with my friend, oh boy, we were there were things that we will talk about for sure, but again, like I'm glad I was able to appreciate it fully kind of through the eyes of a new viewer, like, and like my mom's introduction to this world and everything, because that's one thing I think the series did a very good job in, is it actually did a really good job about introducing viewers to the world. In a very general sense, I do have nitpicks, but like, as a whole, I think it was a good introduction. I then got my dad to watch the show. My dad really liked it as well. I'm going to talk a little bit generally about my feelings of the season, and then I'm going to get into spoilers for the show and spoilers for the first book, and I might be like mentioning some slight overarching, not spoilers, but like maybe beats that will come in later books, but nothing like specific spoilery beyond The Eye of the World. So kind of my general opinion about the show is that it was fine. I really enjoyed some aspects about it, and I really disliked some of the changes that they chose to do. And we'll get more into that in my spoilery bit. But I thought the 8-episode season both kind of worked in the Wheel of Time's favor and also worked against it. I think it worked for the show because it kept everything at a very fast pace. Like, it was very easy to binge, because when I rewatched the first 2 episodes with my mom, she wanted to keep going, and then we watched all the way halfway through the season, and then it was 1 a.m. and she's like, oh, we should probably go to bed. So I think the pacing and hooking new people, it was very good for that. My complaint with only 8 episodes is we don't really because I'm so connected to these characters, because I've read thousands and thousands of pages of them, it was very easy for me to be like, oh my god, that's Egwene, that's Rand, Nynaeve, like, yes. And then my mom, like, she was super into the story and following along, but she had a hard time, like, remembering people's names and stuff like that, because the show didn't really take its time to slowly, like, develop these characters. I feel like a lot of beats were given very quickly, and the viewers were just kind of expected to keep up. But it was hard to, like, really fully flesh out these characters in so short of a season. So that's why I'm hoping in season 2, I am hoping we get at least 9, maybe 10 episodes. That 10 episodes would be wonderful, because I really feel like this show needs some time to breathe. Another thing that I thought was both pretty good and sometimes pretty bad was the special effects. There was in some instances where I really liked the use of magic, where the CGI using to expand the scenery for the locations. I thought the locations, like, looked beautiful, like, especially the background shots, and when they extended stuff, like, I thought it was really cool. But at the same time, there were some effects that looked pretty cheap, and I'm not sure, because this is a very big budget show, so I'm not exactly sure why some of the effects turned out like that. Overall, though, I would say it looked really good. And one of my favorite things actually was the production design and the costuming. I thought, like, the way that, like, certain rooms, like the White Tower, was, like, just designed, and it felt, I don't know, it felt like a cleaner version of the world that I know, because, and that's, like, a good thing and a bad thing. I know I'm saying this a lot, but, like, again, like, I thought it looked good for the show, but at the same time, I almost wanted a slightly, not grimier, but, like, a more lived-in feel, because while the sets were beautiful, they definitely look and felt like sets, and they didn't, like, one of the things I really loved about the first couple seasons of Game of Thrones is that world felt very tangible, it felt very real, and so, like, this show, while it looks great, it does look a bit too artificial at times. And that extends to the costuming as well, because I do really like the Ajas wearing their own colors kind of very vibrantly, and some of the costumes looked really good. It was just kind of like subtle colors that, like, told you what Aja the Aes Sedai were, but it wasn't too over the top. And then there would be a character that came on screen and they looked like a Power Ranger. So again, like, this show, I think, needs to be a little bit more consistent on the production side. I'll talk more generally about the good before I get into some of the bad. So the good, I felt like the actors, with, like, 1 or 2 exceptions, really felt like their characters. Like, I am pretty much satisfied with the acting, and, like, again, for what the actors were given, I think they did a very good job. And yeah, it just made me excited to see these characters on screen, because I've been reading about them for, feels like, forever. And it was just, like, so satisfying to see. And there was a couple of moments, that not even necessarily from the book, because I feel like they were very picky with what they chose to adapt. But actually, some of my favorite scenes, I think, were almost added in the show. I don't think they were in the book. I really liked the Lan and Nynaeve scenes, the few of them that they had. While I question the decision to have Logain be such a prominent storyline in this first season, I think that was pretty well done and did a really good job explaining some of the finer aspects of the world and the magic system to new viewers. And I think that the character interactions were mostly good. I would say I think the series found its footing kind of around the 3rd or 4th episode, and then I think the middle of the season was actually really strong. I honestly think the weakest were the beginning and the endings of the season. But I think the middle was actually pretty solid. And so yeah, those are my goods. And now we're going to get into a couple of my complaints. So these are just going to be very general before I get into talking about some spoilers. But I think the writing really left a lot to be desired for me. I think the dialogue was pretty good, like for the most part, even though there were some lines here or there that, you know, were kind of hit or miss. My issue with the writing was kind of the plot lines that they chose to add into the season, because the first book is packed enough as it is. And I feel like a lot of like new elements were kind of introduced, and I completely understand that, you know, I'm a screenwriter, so like I completely understand the need to trim and cut and change things for a different medium. However, the things that they chose to add, I think, worked less than the stuff that were in the book, or like the stuff they chose to focus on wasn't what should have been focused on. There were some very questionable decisions made. And so while overall, like I could say that I enjoyed the season, there were things that I was dissatisfied with. I am going to start jumping into some spoilers now, but just know, if you are kind of on the fence about whether you want to watch the show, I would honestly read the book first. The Wheel of Time is not a show that I think is like a you must watch it, you have to watch it right now kind of show. Like, I think you can definitely read The Eye of the World and then, like, you know, get a good way into the Wheel of Time book series, and then like maybe binge season 1 right before season 2 is about to come out, because like I am excited for what they're going to do in season 2, because I love the second book a lot. I think it is one of the best in the series so far, and so I really hope they do a good job with it. But yeah, I at this point I would say it's not a great adaptation, but it is a good enough show. So my recommendation is read the books. We are going to dive into some spoilers now, so if you do not want me to kind of get into details about the show and its connections and comparisons to The Eye of the World, please leave now and come back after you've caught up. Okay, spoiler time. Okay, so this is where I might get a little bit heated, and this is not to take away from the good things and good aspects about the show, but God, like, I've spent so long with these characters. I'm now on I'm going to be reading book 8 next, so it's like I have such a firm grasp on who these characters are. Like, I know exactly how they act and how they should act, and so certain things in this season kind of upset me a lot. The first being one that I think pretty much every fan is upset about, and that was the decision to give Perrin a wife and then immediately fridge her. What the fuck were they thinking? Like, Perrin has enough shit that he has to deal with and go through over the course of this series. Like, I don't know why the writers felt like they had to, like, trauma dump on the Emond's Field 5. I really don't get it. Specifically with Perrin, because they gave him the trauma of accidentally murdering his wife, and then he's, like, kind of mopey about it. Like, okay. Oh, God. The reason that doesn't work for me specifically is because Perrin gets a love interest later in the series, and part of the charm of that relationship developing is that Perrin does not know how to, like, interact with this woman, because this woman is very forward. She knows what she wants, and Perrin hasn't really had to deal with that. And so him, like, kind of fumbling his way through how to communicate with this woman is hilarious, and it really shows how much Perrin is loyal and how fiercely he will protect and care about somebody, but it also kind of shows how he can be a little thick-headed, and I really love that aspect about that character relationship. And I just feel like you can't do that in the show now because he has this trauma of murdering his first wife. Like, not even like a girlfriend. Like, they were married. It changes his character, like, in a big way, but also like in a bunch of small little ways where it really annoyed me, because it didn't feel like Perrin. It didn't feel like Perrin to me. Another character that I was really kind of upset with how they characterized him was Matt. Matt is one of my favorite characters in this series, and, you know, he does have to deal with traumatic things happening to him. It's like the course of his character development is he is like the jokester, the trickster, the funny guy who then has to deal with a lot being thrown at him. And in this show, they don't make him funny. He's Matt and he doesn't smile. Like, what the fuck? I don't understand. Like, he just felt like an emo version of this character that I love. And yes, Matt does have his emo phases, but that's part of his character development. This Matt is emo from fucking day one. And that was just so weird to me, and it felt off. Like, because in the season, there's supposed to be this shift in his attitude after he gets the cursed knife. And it's like, oh, he's bad now. He's being influenced by the dark thing. There is no fucking contrast because he was acting the same way before he got the knife. So, like, what? Yeah, so that really annoyed me just because, like, and they also gave Matt, like, family trauma. Again, like, off the start, like, again, like, I don't understand why these characters, or why these writers wanted to give these characters, like, all this, like, initial trauma and, like, shit. Because, like, they had, like, their problems, they had, like, their little relationships and, like, their friendships and, like, the dynamics between the other people in Emond's Field, and, like, that was definitely a part of, like, the initial start of Eye of the World. But, like, I felt like the writers were just doing this to, like, spice things up, and it's like, you're writing for the Wheel of Time, and I feel like you haven't read beyond the first book, because, like, if you did, you would know all the shit that these characters have to go through eventually, and, like, you wouldn't be trying to rush that. Like, I literally felt like I was watching Season 8 of Game of Thrones with all the rushed fucking character development, and it pissed me off a little bit, especially as a book reader. And my mom, on the other hand, like, fucking loved it. Like, she was just, like, you know, happy-go-lucky, going along with it and vibing. And so I, you know, love that for her, and I wish that I could fucking relate. The one character I feel like they nailed was Nynaeve. Nynaeve, fucking yes. She was amazing. My favorite character in the Wheel of Time is Nynaeve. And I know people, like, have some issues with her and say she's annoying, blah, blah, blah. I don't agree with those people. I love Nynaeve. And so the show getting Nynaeve so right and Lan so right and their relationship so right, like, that was, like, one of the saving graces of the season for me, because I love that dynamic and those characters so much. And so, like, that was a nice thing to have, is I really love that. And then another character who I love, and I think was the obvious standout of the season, was Moiraine. And Rosamund Pike, she just nailed it. She played the kind of, like, mysterious, kind of, like, playful, but also, like, wise, and, like, she was so good. And I know, like, they had to change kind of the way that the Aes Sedai interacted, just because you can't have, like, these emotionless women on screen, because that's not dynamic and it would bore viewers. But I felt like the way that they had the Aes Sedai kind of emote and who they chose to do it with, I thought that was pretty good. Like, I feel like the show overall did a pretty good job with the Aes Sedai, and so I don't really have issues with the Aes Sedai at all. Most of my criticisms are honestly with the Emond's Field 5, and what they chose to do, which I think is really funny because the Emmonds Field Five are like literally the entire Wheel of Time. Hello, editing Blake here. I realize I completely forgot to talk about Rand and Egwene, because it doesn't matter. And I hate saying that, but it's true. I feel like the people in the writer's room, like, were upset that Rand and Egwene never got together in the books, and so they decided to just, like, do fan fiction in the show. And yeah, it doesn't work. Because, like, this is slight spoilers for the rest of the series, but Rand goes on to have 3 love interests, and Egwene is not one of them. So, like, they spent all this time developing Rand and Egwene's burgeoning relationship or whatever, and it's like, it's meaningless because that is not Rand's path at all. And it would be a disservice to the other characters and Rand to, like, sideline them to have Rand be with Egwene. It doesn't make any sense. It's dumb. Egwene is a perfect and good character in her own right without being tied to Rand. That's one of my favorite things about Egwene, actually, is, like, they kind of, like, have a crush on each other in book 1, but then they very kind of quickly, their lives go in 2 different directions. And then Egwene has her, like, she comes into her own, like, in a huge way. And I think the show made such a mistake by saddling Egwene with Rand, because it's just like, oh, it's Rand and Egwene now. And it's like, it's not like, oh my god, Egwene. It's like, I don't know. I don't like that. But I think that the actress for Egwene, she did a fantastic job. And I still love Egwene as a character. I love Egwene and I love Rand. I just don't love them together, and they shouldn't be. Another character that I feel like was done a little bit dirty was Tom. I enjoyed him when he showed up, and then he was just gone too fast. I think the decision to wait to introduce Tom was kind of dumb, because, like, yes, it was more dynamic, but he was also only around for, like, a second. Like, an episode, maybe an episode and a half. He wasn't, like, an initial part of the group, and it, like, when there's that moment when, you know, Matt and Rand ride off and leaving Tom fighting the Fade, it doesn't hit as hard, because you're like, okay, he's just some guy. Like, it's not like, oh my god, that's Tom. Like, even my mom, I was talking with her, I was like, oh, so what'd you think of Tom? And she was like, who? Exactly. The show didn't, yeah, do better. I did think that the overall season plot was pretty well done. I did like the fact that they kept you guessing who the dragon was, because my mom had no idea. She thought it was a couple different people at one point. Her strongest contender was Nynaeve. But then, like, kind of when the episode started with Rand's mom on the Dragon Mount, and then Tam, like, you know, she was like, okay, it's got to be him because of the hair. But again, I think for the whole season, they did a pretty good job about, like, drawing that out and having the viewer guess. So I did like that aspect. And I think the actor who played Rand actually did a pretty good job. He felt like Rand because, let's be honest, Rand is, like, a little boring at the start, but he has this kind of flashes of, like, and so, yeah, he gave me that. So, like, he felt like Rand. Rand has a lot more dynamic and interesting things to do coming in the future, so we'll see what they do with that. But I pretty enjoyed Rand in this season. I do think that the ending was a choice. Choices were made. Yeah, they didn't even talk about the 7 seals. They didn't talk about, like, it wasn't like the actual Eye of the World. Yeah, like, I understand that, like, the actual ending to the Eye of the World, the book, is, like, maybe a little messy, but, like, even still, I feel like the ending we got was just kind of like, oh, okay. And then ending with the Shan-Chan just kind of, like, coming in, it's like, cool. My mom was like, who is that? And I was like, you'll find out. And she's like, okay. So, like, even she was kind of a little disappointed how the season ended. And yeah, I think that's kind of, like, yeah, there was good stuff. There was questionable stuff. There was some really baffling decisions made. And yeah, and so I think overall, this season really just made me want to read more of the books, because I really miss these characters. I love these characters, and like I'm hoping we get a lot of the Camelin characters in season 2, and I hope that they are done right and given enough time to do right. I'm really excited for season 2 as well, because we actually are getting a recast of Matt. I'm not actually sure why the first actor is being changed. I don't know if it's like because he did something, or if, you know, maybe he's taking time off for personal reasons or something. I don't know. I wish him the best, you know. But I am excited for the new Matt actor, because I honestly want my Matt. I want Matt to feel like Matt. And yeah, I really hope that the people and the creators behind the show have kind of seen the criticism online from fans, because the thing is, it's like, we're not criticizing it because we hate it. I actually, like, again, like I said, overall, I enjoyed this season. I just think there are some core decisions that really go against the characters that I know and love so much. And so I hope that the team behind the show has seen all the online criticism, and, you know, they might incorporate, or they might change a couple things, or you know, I'm not asking them to, you know, bend to, you know, the fans' wills, and nothing like that. Like, it's important for them to have their own creative vision as well. But at the same time, like, I don't want Wheel of Time to be remembered like Game of Thrones is being remembered. Like, I want this to be something where it's like, okay, watch the first season and, you know, it's pretty good, but oh my God, season 2, season 3, like, you know, I want this show to develop a following and a community, and people who love it, because we have all the book fans. They're gonna be there. They hopefully will be there. But, you know, as for the new audience, it seems like the general audiences are pretty much enjoying the show, and I'm very glad for them. I'm glad about that. But I want the show to reach a wider audience, and I think to do that, the show just needs to be a little bit better quality. So, yeah, not sure how to really wrap up this rambly type review. But yeah, just saying that, like, I think that the show did some things right, and it did some things really wrong. And I really am curious to see what you guys think about it, because, you know, I'm only one person. This is just my opinion. So please let me know down below what you think of the character changes, what you think of the storyline. Where do you think they're going to go in season 2? Do you think they're going to pull more stuff from future books? What's up? Let's go. Let's have a chat. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.